everyone. Welcome to PrepZone Podcast. I'm your host, Estevao Divino, and I have with me here for the second time the head coach of the Staples Boys Volleyball, John Sedlock. Coach, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Steve?
Good. You're the only second guest we have here second time, you and Maddie Jack. So thank you so much for being a repeat guest. We appreciate that very much.
I love being here. I love doing this, so you're very welcome.
No, thank you so much. Listen, when we sat down here and we were before the season, and I know you were probably a positive guy and you saw it coming. I didn't see a 12-7 season coming with 2 postseason games to talk about. Talk about how this season's been going for you.
Feels really good. I knew we were going to be successful this year. I will say there have been some surprise wins, which is nothing but positive for us, you know. But for example, that Sellington game in the beginning of the season, really wasn't sure about that one. Wasn't even sure about Amity, but you know what? Amity was the first 5-set banger we pulled out, and that was awesome for us. And, you know, Sellington was one of the best games we played all season.
Yeah, it was a 3-0 win.
Yeah, everybody showed out that game.
Yeah.
What a great game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the team, you know, it's probably, you know, you really haven't had multiple losses together. It's always been like, you know, you always bounce back from a loss with a win. Mm-hmm. It only happened in the season. I think you lost a few there because of the schedule. But talk about the resilience of this team this year that you saw.
Well, I could tell you that when we go to practice after losses, everybody is hyper-focused. And not to say that they're not hyper-focused when we're winning, but, you know, every loss that we've had has kind of been a little like kick in the butt and kind of like a little brain recalibration, and then being like, okay, we need to dial in, we need to lock in here because we have other hard games and we can't let this happen again. Yeah,
and I think that's probably the key to a successful season, right? I mean, you don't get on those losing streaks. You always bounce back. The team does that. And not to put you in the spot, but what has been the biggest surprise for you this season?
What has been the biggest surprise? I think the biggest surprise for me this season is really how, I guess, wide open is the phrase. Because everybody, you know, all the coaches preseason were like, you know, who's going to be good in the FCIAC this year? Nobody really knows. Like, whatever, it's wide open. But I have to say, the FCIAC's strong. And I really, at this point, you know, on the eve of the FCIAC tournament starting and states being right around the corner, you know, about a week and a half away, I really think it is anyone's game. But I think one of the FCIAC teams are going to be on top.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked doing my research. Like, I think the last time that an FCIAC team has not won a state championship was 11 years ago.
It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, so it's always FCIAC, and I always feel like the FCIAC tournament. You brought it up. To me, it's like a mini state championship. It's like, you know, we're entering the quarterfinals right now. You guys are going to play Darien at away on Saturday.
Yes, sir.
So what is, I mean, you just played them. Mm-hmm. Your take to this game and your outlook for this quarterfinal match.
I think playing them, I mean, I guess I could say it's not technically back-to-back, but I mean, we played them yesterday, and now we got them a few days later. I think we got a really good look at their strengths, you know, and I think the weaknesses they have are there. I don't think we did a good job of exposing them on Wednesday. But I also think that now that it's playoff time, I think we're going to see a different version of our Staples boys here. You know, because when it's time to perform, and especially this is evident in practice, when I put competitive drills on them and they're competing against each other, that's really when they turn up. And I think now that we're in the win or go home scenario of and portion of the season, I think that's gonna turn on some juice and some brains here.
Yeah, I think, you know, you like you said, win or go home, right? There's no tomorrow. I mean, obviously you got the FCIAC, then you're still gonna have the state championship. Yeah. But in your view, is the FCIAC harder to win in the state championship?
Oh, this I would say so for sure this season. I mean, if you look at the rankings for L, a lot of the FCIAC teams are up there. Yeah, you know? That's why I mean, anything can happen, but I would not be surprised if an FCIAC team is crowned state championship for Class L this year.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the rankings, when you look, it is FCIAC, you know, although I think the first 4 or 5 are FCIACs. And then you got to play the other ones. And, you know, you and I talked earlier in the season about the matches that you have. They're non-conference matches. And, you know, you did a lot of traveling early on in the season to this. When you look back at that, Was that useful to see what's going to happen this season and to see what's out there besides just the FCX schedule?
Oh, for sure. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with the state tournament and with everything, with who gets to play who and like the actual, seating for everything. But we got a good look at Sellington and we got a good look at Amity. And I mean, I know for sure that Sellington is in, and they have that. Talk about a team that's like come a long way. I mean, they started out, I think it was 2-5 or 2-6 or something, and they're like 8-7, 9-7 now. So they figured it out,
Yeah.
And we played very well against them, but that is going to be a very hard game if we have to run into them again in the state tournament.
Yeah, because now everyone's going to be in that playoff mode, right? Win or go home.
Yeah.
So everybody's going to be, not that they don't take the regular game seriously, but it's different. It's definitely different. So as you prepare for the FCIAC tournament here, how do you see as like the biggest challenge to advancing and keep playing in this tournament?
Specifically for us, staying healthy. I mean, right now we've got some injuries that we're trying to figure out and, try to get the players back in the best shape that they can be. A little bit of illness too right now. So I'm trying to lighten the load of a lot of, especially for some of the impactful players, while at the same time trying to keep them prepared and keep them, sharp for these games. But like I said, we got to see Darien 2 days or last night, and now we get to see them again shortly after. It's not like we have to re-prepare for, let's say we had to play West Hill again. Now we got to sit and we got to go through the, West Hill's game plan again and worry about their strengths and try to expose their weaknesses. This is a little fresh. This game last night was kind of like a little precursor to like, okay, now we know the speed of the sets. Now we know what these guys do in these certain rotations. Now we know, and now it's up to the boys to perform.
Right, and I saw you also. You made some in-game adjustments too as well, especially in that third set, which you guys were really in it. I mean, there were some adjustments that went on, so right away, I think it's like you were absorbing information as the game was going on as well. That could serve you well.
Yeah, I mean, you have to adapt. You have to adapt in the moment and try things out. If something's not working, you have as a coach, you have to try to make a change.
Now, as we talk about, we want to focus a little bit now on the FCIAC because it's going to go on tomorrow. What do you think makes the FCIAC such a strong volleyball conference? And I mean, I think all sports are, but is it because the schools, the sports, the athletes? Can you put a finger on it and say what makes it such a unique place to play sports?
I think volleyball, and I mentioned this in the first podcast, volleyball is such a niche sport, especially in Connecticut, because a lot of the players don't start playing until they're in high school, or, I mean, unless they have a family member who's played, and then, then they have a little bit more experience, or at least they have a little more knowledge. But as far as the FCIAC goes and why it's so solid, I mean, the majority of all these players are playing year-round, whether it's they're playing club or they're in some other like summer league or they're just getting together because they're friends and they're peppering in the backyard or they're playing in grass doubles tournaments. These players are putting in the work in the off season. They're not just showing up, and they're not just volleyball players from March 23rd to whenever their season ends.
Right.
They're volleyball players year round. It's their passion, and then when the season comes around, they get to show off.
Now, this was correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in the past when, and I guess it's like a pro-con. I know in the past you guys have a lot of numbers in the teams, but you'd have players who were just playing for the season volleyball. And now you have more specialized players. Yeah. Pros and cons to that?
Pros and cons. Pro, everybody's playing in the off season. They're getting touches. They're getting hours in. They're learning. They're around the game more. Cons. If you have to. It's hard to go from having multiple coaches for the same sport because every coach has a different ideology, and a lot of coaches have different.
Good point.
A lot of coaches have different philosophies. So, one of the hardest things I think, and as a previous player, I can attest to this. It's hard to go from a coach that you might really enjoy the way this coach does one thing or runs something a certain way, to go to a different coach that is like, not that they're worse, but like it's a little different than what you become accustomed to.
Yeah.
And to be flexible as a player, and to understand that you've got these are two different teams. Maybe your role as a player on this team is different than your role as a player on this team.
Yeah.
and just to be, to be able to adapt like that as a player, I think is a very hard thing to do for a lot of young individuals, but it's also a very good learning experience.
Right. I think it would
Yeah.
serve you well in life because if
Yeah.
you look at, you'll beyond the game, you're going to work with people that are different mentalities, right? Different bosses. Different. So it's going to be. It's
I was
going to
gonna
be.
say, you're gonna get a job. You could have
Yeah.
the coolest boss. You could love your boss. You could want to take a bullet for your boss, and then your company gets absorbed, and now you've got someone you don't even know telling you to do the opposite things, and you're like, what is this?
Right. And
I wanna rebel.
And I think right. And I think at some point we all experience that. So
Yeah.
it's a good thing to kind of get that early, right?
Yeah.
To get that out of your system, understanding that it's a little bit bigger than just me. I've got individuals around me, as a
Mhm.
team sport that goes like that. And now the state of the program, and I want you to talk a little bit about the JV as well. They had a very good season,
Oh yeah.
very good season,
Yeah.
right? I mean, how do you evaluate that JV season those kids had?
Well, first and foremost, I wish we had more numbers. We only got 3 brand new freshmen this year, which is not great for like the longevity of the program. But for this current JV team that we have now, I'm very impressed with the 5 sophomores who have all played in the off season and have come back with a lot of them have for their age, have a lot of really strong leadership qualities. And it carries over when they get brought up to the varsity court as well. Obviously, as you know, I have sophomores on the floor, and they're really doing well. They're really, really doing well. Some of them say things and I'm like, man, that came from a sophomore. It's awesome. It's great. And I'm very excited for definitely like the next season and the season after, but we for sure have to get more bodies in the gym. Because if I take in only, let's say I take in only 3 freshmen next year, well,
Now, I do
not gonna be
think
great.
I do think that winning helps.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you look at this year, like you're coming off a season. I don't want to put it, but you won 3 games, you get 3 people. Maybe you win 12, you get 12 next year, right? How about that? Would that be great?
I'll take it. Yeah,
Right?
I'll take it.
Because I do think, I mean, you think about it, and I'm around a lot of teams, right? And you get teams that attract players by just sure of playing tournament games, playing playoff games.
Mm-hmm.
Big part of it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we can't deny that fact. I think it's a good, and the program's success this year, the work you and Coach X have done have been, like you said, with the JV, as you watch and you see them, I mean, these kids, even the freshmen, like I said, the 3 guys, they're playing well from the beginning. They've learned the game.
Yeah.
And if they just started it now, right, it's a big testament for what you guys are doing. Talk a little bit about Coach X and the work he's done with those kids.
Boy, Coach X is a very he's he is so fundamentally driven as a coach, and he is someone who pays very fine attention to the most minute details in everything he does. But in volleyball, it's amazing because he can he can tweak things with brand new players with maybe it's their passing platform or it's just like knowledge of a situation. The way he can break it down and express it to these guys is why he is where he is, and I love having him. Any success that this program has had is directly really he's half of it. He's half of it. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without Coach X. And every year we get, he turns the incoming players into people who can pass, or there's always at least one skill that they can do well, and he identifies it and he kind of sharpens it.
Right, and think about like you talk about the sophomore, right? So he got them as freshmen, and all of them play in the off season.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like it's a speaks volume, at least from an outsider looking in. Hey, these kids who actually get in the sport, they enjoy it.
Yeah.
And they want to continue to play it.
Mm-hmm.
I know there was I don't want to mention names, but I know Stout was a basketball player. He decided to play. I love this thing. I'm going to stick this out, and he's been a big part of your season. So, and again, we're gonna talk a little bit, but how impactful was the Penn injury to you guys this year? I know that because you get a rotation going. I mean, and I know you guys are adjusting really well to that. But I mean, injuries have just been a part, right, of your every season. Seems like last year it happened, this year happens again.
Yep.
And you mentioned about being healthy. Is it more like about the condensity of the schedule or the amount of games you play? Can you put a finger on that?
Well, losing Penn, I mean, Penn was doing very well. Penn was a It still is, just not playing. But, he was one of the best things about Penn was his blocking, which is why Penn was playing the position where he was playing. But again, like you said, another player he's year-round plays volleyball, puts in the work. But going back to Coach X is a phenomenal blocker. I mean, he's a tremendous player overall. Coach X can really do everything that you need him to do. You would love to have him as one of your players if you were a coach. But one of the best things he does is block. He's always been in high school and college, amazing blocker. So very recently, we were working on blocking, and we've been in the field house because of AP testing. And we set up 2 nets, and I said, take all the big guys and go do block. We're going to do blocking. You're going to do blocking today. I'm going to stay over here with the liberos, and I'm going to teach them some stuff that I haven't talked talked about them yet. But you're blocking. Go ahead.
I mean, in blocking is like I mean, listen, every facet of the game is you can go, but it's so important because it changes the way that the team plays offense.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a big part of what you guys do is that, right? And that has improved. I mean, a lot this year than last year. I think you guys have been a lot better at that.
Yeah, I agree. I fully agree. Yeah. Fully agree.
And as you look now, as FCIAC coming up, these playoff games, what do you think are the strengths of your team and the areas you're going to focus on? It's not giving everything away, but what do you think are going to be the strengths of you guys going to these games right now?
Well, specifically for the FCIAC tournament, I think having data and having intel on the teams that we've played up to this point is a really important thing. But we're gonna have to pass the ball and serve receive, and that is something like we have. We have some very, very good passers on serve receive, and that's something that we're gonna, no matter what game we play from here on out, that's something that we are going to need, because if we don't have that, it's going to be very hard for anybody else to do anything. In volleyball, there's only one aspect of volleyball that you as a player have 100% control over, and that is when you are serving. Every other part of the game is dictated by something else. You're setting, well, what kind of pass is it? Is it a 3-option pass? Is it a 1-option pass? Do I have to run and just bump set this thing to the outside? If you're a hitter, it's all dictated from the set. It's so it all starts with the pass. It all starts with the first touch, serve receive, or transition from a free ball trying to convert digs to kills off free balls, which, to be honest, we didn't really do too well yesterday. Is something that we're gonna have to do. When we make Darianne's big hitters not swing and they tip or they roll, we have to at least get a touch on that and try to get our own swing on it. But we can't let that ball hit the floor, and we can't let that first touch go into the bleachers. Those are the things that's where we have to capitalize. When we influence what the other hitters are doing and put them in a situation where we can be successful, we have to win these games from here on out.
So on your 12 wins, what do you think? I mean, obviously a lot of things worked well, but anything that you feel that this is probably the thing that really got us a lot of these wins? And I know you've been serving a lot better than you did last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this year's the numbers speak for itself. But is there something that you feel like, well, this year, it's a combination of the team, but we really improved on this to get us all these wins? Is it the passing, is it the receiving, or the...
Specifically between this year and last year, we have a lot more offensive options. Specifically, Mason Siskind and Will Stout in the middle. Last year, we were very much, outside hitter heavy between Sawyer and Pierce. And this year, thankfully, we still have Sawyer and Pierce, but now we have Mason, setter turn middle, who
knew?
I mean,
yeah. You did, but not many people did.
I had faith in him.
Yeah.
Back at his brother was a middle. I knew he could do it. And let me tell you, to go from any position to be put into the middle is a very hard thing to do. Middle is tough. You are expected to block on just about every swing that the team is hitting to you. You're always jumping every play. Whether you could go, there could be a rally, ball goes back and forth 3 times, and all you might do as a middle is jump and block and spin around and go back to the net. And let me tell you, that gets frustrating and that gets annoying. But Mason has never once complained, and he's never once been like, I've never gotten any sort of criticism or anything from Mason. and he has really been excelling, and I'm so proud of him.
Yeah, the numbers pick. I mean, I look at some stats. He leads the team in a lot of those categories.
But going back to your original question, it's having presence in the middle, which is also helping us, win these games, because now we're taking a little bit off of Sawyer and Pierce on the outside.
And you talked about how the adjustments is, and you guys seem to be a very unselfish team, really playing for there. Talk about the character of this team, individually, how these kids have been so great this year, and how you think that has contributed to these wins.
They're all friends, so that helps. You always want to go to bat for your friends, and you always want to be positive for your friends. As a player who's played on a team where I love everybody, and then playing on a team where, it was more like a job, I could tell you playing with your friends is way better. It makes the losses easier. It helps you rebuild and regroup a little bit after, and you just you subconsciously want to do better, because you're not doing it for yourself only, you're doing it for your friends. That's
a good concept, because it's you think about bouncing back from losses. It's like, and I don't, I can't remember if it was an interview I had with one of your guys, but somebody mentioned that the practice after losses have been better than they were before in years before. Is that something that you've experienced?
I'm only laughing because there's a lot less of them this year.
Right, a lot less. But season. No, but I do remember, and I can't remember if it was a post-game interview. There's something we did, and somebody said, to me, oh yeah, no, after losses now, our practices are different. They're not. I don't know if you practice better. I don't know. I'm not in the practice, but is that something you notice as well? I mean, the practice after losses.
Like I mentioned before earlier in this interview, we catch a loss and then we come back to practice and everybody's a little more tuned in, and we don't harp on the loss. I talk about the things that we didn't do. Say we lost because of this, and this is just like a fake example, but it's like, you guys, we passed like a 1.2 on serve receive collectively as a team, and that means that we're making Brian or Pierce run all over the floor, and we're making our hitters not be able to hit in system and try to fix these sets that are going to be either good or not so good. But the season is too condensed to really get caught up in your losses and things like that. So you just have to identify what went wrong, and then practice, because you have a game the next day.
And that could be and I feel like that's probably the thing that's best about baseball, is that they play so many games.
Yeah.
It's like you lose a game, you talk about it 10 minutes, dude, we gotta get ready and go to the next game.
Yeah.
We gotta get better, and we just gotta keep moving and chugging along. So and as we put a bow on the season, talk about the postseason. In this season, what is already talking about next season? What is the biggest building block you think from this year to next year that you're going to focus on? And I know I'll give you a hard question because I know the team saw it, but go ahead.
Recruiting is probably my number one. And I don't know how much influence I can have in this, but just getting more bodies in the gym next year. Even any student who might not be sure, they should talk to Ryan Zoe. Ryan Zoe was a tennis player his whole life.
That's right.
He's he came over to volleyball as a junior, and he's another one. And we wish we had Ryan all 4 years, but Ryan's doing really well. And if there's any student out there who might be on the fence or not sure if the spring sport they're playing isn't really working out for them, and they want to talk to someone who had a first year experience, they should talk to Ryan Zoe. Super nice kid overall, but he's probably the best person to ask about, so if you want to make a change in sport, well, here's my story.
Right. Yeah. And also, multiple sports athletes, right? I mean, it's been a common thing that, I've had coaches here, and a lot of them talk about, when you're playing these multiple sports, you develop different skill sets that can help you. Mm-hmm. So, I've got so many stories of people that playing something else turning volleyball players. But volleyball, what do you feel like? You play the sport, and I know you play basketball as well. Mm-hmm. What is the biggest, you think, athleticism-wise, the thing that's you only work in volleyball that you don't do in other sports? Is there anything you can say, this is a really good thing that worked that I felt was different at volleyball than other sports?
This might sound funny, but if you're someone who likes to jump, if you are someone with a gifted ability in jumping, play volleyball. Just do it. Because in other sports, obviously, you have to jump as well. There's high jump and track, and you're jumping in football to catch a ball, and you're jumping in basketball a lot. But there is just something so satisfying about hitting the crap out of a volleyball. Like going up, jumping, elevating, and just crushing a volleyball is so satisfying. It's so fun. Yeah. Because it's such a hard thing to do, to figure out what the timing and everything, and when you do it, it's like, oh my god,
I did it.
It's so
you can
so
see
fun.
by the excitement. I mean, I think and that's like this year. I invited some people that came to the gym. They're like, this is exciting. I'm like, yeah. I think it's like, I grew up with the sport, so I understand how exciting it is. But when you get there, it's like it is, because it's nonstop action, and it's like the plays are there's a lot goes into it, but it is. So that's a really good advice too. So like people that you get in like that, right? Yeah. Okay, now talk about the FCIAC tournament. Obviously, you're gonna pick yourself to win. You have to, right? I would think so. But let's just say, what do you think here? I'm just looking here, but talk about two teams that maybe you think that are going to be really tough competition this year. I mean, Darien, obviously, right? You think so? But what's another team you think is going to really make some noise this year?
Any one of them. I that sounds so very cliche. I understand,
right.
But I mean, between all the teams that are in it right now are very good teams. They're very good teams. Some of them have better records than the other ones, but
any given day, right? Because we had some big upsets.
Fairfield just beat New Canaan.
I know.
Who would have thought? Bridgeport almost beat Trumbull last night. That went 5 sets. Every single one of these teams in the top 8 in the FCIAC tournament really have a chance to pull it off. Obviously the favorites are West Hill, Richfield, and Darien, but like you said, any given day, anything could happen. Yeah, anything could happen.
And we talked about the state tournament. It looks like you're going to be in the road based on the rankings. Am I looking at the right ones?
I'm not sure about that yet, because when I last checked, there were 21 teams that have qualified, but some of these teams still have games left. Like Amity is a team they're 1 win away, and I forgot who their last match is, but it's somebody that if they win, they're in.
May 23rd. I think they can still play games till May 23rd.
I think that's the last date for regular season games.
But they can still get some more games in, these teams, right?
Yes.
Obviously. Okay.
Yes. So I'm not used to seeing 20 plus teams on the boys' side. When I was looking at the brackets from previous boys tournaments for Class L and M, you've got like 14, 15, maybe 16 teams max. But if you go look at the girls, some of the, especially in Class Double L or L, you've got like 25, 30 teams, whatever. So if we get lucky here with a good seeding, we very well might have a first round home game. Because let's say if we're 12 or 13, we'll play the 22nd or 23rd or something like that.
Okay, so
that'll be a home game.
Yeah, that'll be a home game. Yeah,
we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, and even and again, this is a biased opinion of it, but I always feel like FCIAC teams bloody each other, and then when they get to the state tournaments, like you might be like a 14 seed, and then you go into like a 7th and you blow them out because they've been playing not the competition. You've been playing at home here, close to home. Mm-hmm. Is that something you've experienced in the past as well, where like you kind of don't get much, didn't go in surprise, or am I totally off base here?
Repeat that for me, just so I make sure I understand.
So like my question is more like this. I feel like when you're playing in the FCIAC, you're playing very tough competition, which kind of drives your record down somewhat.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So you end up being like a 12 seed, where if you were playing the same like let's just say if everybody had to play everybody in the state, right? Let's just say you didn't have to play, Ridgefield and Darien every year, right? And you were like you were playing stuff, because I almost feel like I looked at some teams, and I won't mention the specific teams, but like they started off the season playing competition where I guess the non-league games, they jumped out to a 7-0 record. Then you go in the FCIAC, and now all of a sudden you got a losing record.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like you feel like you're blooding each other because the competition's so tough. And then when you get to states, it's almost like you have a easier time than the FCIAC tournament.
Typically, yes. Now, what's different about this year instead of previous years is this is the first year that the boys have adapted a power ranking. So, for example, if you look right now, West Hill I think is like 15-2 or 16-2 or something, and they're like the 6 or 7 seed, and they've got teams who've got, less wins ahead of them because they're taking account into your strength of schedule.
Oh, okay, that's good.
As well. It's not just your overall record anymore.
Understood. So this is going to be like, I feel like as volleyball grows, it's going to be the new basketball, because I don't know how much you follow that, but I follow the basketball, and every year there's a huge debate about state seedings.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, you got a team who's, again, playing the FCIAC, playing tough competition. And then they go Division I, and they got a very low seeding against a team who hasn't played anyone all year.
Yeah.
But maybe the power rankings will kind of even that out. That's interesting to know.
Maybe, I mean, so far, I don't really have any complaints. I think it's interesting, to say the least.
It's like Catch-22, because it doesn't matter what you do, somebody out there is going to be unhappy, right?
Yeah, and that's just competitive sports
just
anyway.
Like, yeah.
And the fact remains, you gotta show up and you gotta ball out. You just gotta play. Just gotta play.
Win your game, right? Don't worry about who you're playing. Just win. Because if you're going to win a championship, you're not going to be able to choose who you play that championship. No. So it's like, if you have to travel and play a tougher team, do it, right? If you want to win, do it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's been such a fun season. I hope that, we build in, and we're talking maybe about a championship here this year, maybe next year. I think you guys look really strong. You guys done a terrific job this year.
Thank you.
Coach Alex, you guys have
Thank you. Yeah.
Really, it's been really fun watching it. And I guess before you go, any cool stories from this year so far that you can share? Maybe like a fun anecdote or something that happened off court, on court, that you're like, this was funny. This was like a good team moment or something that happened that you can share with the audience, like to get a little insight of what the volleyball team's like. I'm sure there's got to be maybe some you can share that won't make everybody upset in the team.
I feel so bad for Pierce Brown, and I owe you ice cream still. But the deal was, if we had a better record than last year, I would buy the boys ice cream, and we achieved that very early on. Very, very, very early on in the season.
Game 5, right? Game 5. I think you're because you were 3-1, right? Where you were through, then you won 4, the 3-2, the 4. Yeah, exactly. 4-1.
Yeah. So going to Carvel on the post road over here was very nice. That was a very fun experience, seeing the whole team in uniform eating ice cream and just like hanging out. Like I said, it goes back to them. They're all friends. They all like each other, and that's good.
So cool.
That helps a lot. So I like, that's cool. But also, we've gone 5, I think 3 times now, and we've won every single time. And to win, losing sucks. Losing a 5-set match sucks a little more.
Yeah.
But winning a 5-set match is a huge morale boost for a team. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that we love to go 5, because I don't.
Let's win in 3 and get out of here, right? Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
But those are really good moments, and they're all positive things. I kind of wish I got a picture from the ice cream night, but like I said, we were missing a few players. Pierce is one of them, so maybe we'll do another. We'll do another ice cream.
Yeah, you put it for next year now. Winning 13 games, that's gonna be good. It's like it's not gonna happen week 5. I can assure you that. It's not gonna happen. But those are the, I guess, little things you remember, right? So you got a mental picture of that. It's something that most of those guys will never forget.
Yeah.
Right. It's a memory they'll have forever, and you guys have forever. It's like, as you close here, we were talking before. Playing, there's something very special playing for high school.
Mm-hmm.
Be it, I guess we're kind of biased because we're here, but I'm sure that every high school you play to is special. How do you view your high school experience, and how do you think, if someone's out there, should I play for high school? Should I not play for high school? What is your advice to them?
Do it. I mean, it doesn't have to be volleyball. If you're, especially if you're in high school and you have, if you have doubts, or maybe the current thing you're doing, maybe you're playing an instrument, maybe you're playing a different sport, and maybe you're interested in something else, just try it. Some of the best memories I have from being a player are tied directly to my high school experience. Now, I had a very exceptional high school experience. I understand that, but we were all very close friends, and we're all still very close friends. You know, I've been to a few weddings. I've been in a few weddings from from teammates from high school.
So cool.
Still talk every day. You can play we played in leagues before we all got too old and broken. But for any player out there, like I said, it doesn't have to be volleyball, but if you're not satisfied with something that you're doing that you might have been doing for however long now, listen to your heart. Your heart knows. And try something else out. Don't be afraid to try something else out. Life's too short. Just do it.
Exactly. You got to put yourself out there, right? Because it's like, it's better to do that and just regret the things you had. And you have a chance. I mean, we're in a school that's got everything from fencing to sailing to,
Especially here in Westport, yes.
Yeah.
There is a plethora of unique things that who knows what your niche is going to be.
Listen, we have a ski team. You can ski for free for the entire winter if you want to.
Yeah, that's true. That's
right?
true. That's very appealing.
Think about that, right? If you're a skier, right? That's the thing to do. But, Coach, congrats on a very successful season.
Thank you.
Hopefully it goes really well at Darien in the state tournament. And we'll have you back here in June to talk about all of it.
I would love it.
Thank you so much, Coach.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.